Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Cutting Through the Noise, a non-weekly podcast that was originally thought to maybe be weekly, but apparently the schedule is now whenever I happen to get around to doing a podcast.
I feel like that's the podcast schedule for most podcasts, if we're honest, right?
That's it. That's pretty much. I think everybody starts out with an intention somewhere, and then you just end up where you end up. And hey, chugging along a week at a time. Now we're a month or two later. Oh well.
And this is from you, Josh, who was like the king of weekly on the YouTube videos for the longest time.
I set that bar way too high, and I had more time on my hands back then. And yeah, it was painful to try to keep up with. Obviously, I did not keep up with that. But we're back with. I'm gonna own the fact that this is highly not at the right cadence, and we'll just go with that. People can have that expectation. Welcome back, everyone. I've got an awesome guest host today, Tom. Welcome to Cutting Through the Noise. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks for having me on the show. I've been enjoying them so far. It's nice to go a bit off-piste with the conversations rather than just all tech. So yeah, it's great to be on.
It is. It's fun to get a little bit into the weeds of other areas, right? And just kind of talk about things that impact us in this industry and beyond, but maybe they don't always make the cut on some of our podcasts, some of our talking head pieces. And today we'll kind of get into one of those topics a little bit as well. But for those that don't know who you are, and I can't imagine anyone watching me doesn't know who you are already, but for those people, please give a brief introduction of yourself, all the cool things that you're up to these days.
Yeah, so the history is did a business degree, but went straight into tech. So went into a Cisco partner doing Cisco networking, then IPT, and then Microsoft was kind of popping off. This was around the OCS R2 Link 2010 days. So I started doing more Microsoft stuff in the Cisco world, cut over to a Microsoft partner. We grew from like 7 people to 200 doing global enterprise UC deployment, so Link, Skype Business. I've been involved in some pretty sizable customers, had a lot of fun there. And the last 3 years now, I co-founded Empowering Cloud, and the whole remit of Empowering Cloud is educational content, enterprise focused around Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365. We have about 10,000 people, give or take, engaged in the community, newsletter, podcasts, all different bits and pieces. And it's backed by a whole bunch of great sponsors, which means it's all free to access for the community.
That's a good following, and it's a great resource. You've got different video pieces by all kinds of different guests from the community that have done those pieces.
Yeah, I think we're up to 36 experts who've done various briefings for us, all different content, and we try and keep it really current as well.
It helps it feel like a wider, blooming community. But I think what's appreciated there is the independence. You like your Microsoft content, but you also know you're drinking from a marketing hose in most of those cases, right? So this is really kind of nitty-gritty.
We try really hard to demarketing it, and everybody who works on it kind of knows it's not sales pitchy. It's very real world, and we bring out a lot of enterprise service owners who can give us an honest perspective on why they've chosen what they've chosen or what they're doing. So yeah, we try and stay away from the hype, particularly in these days of AI, even more so away from the hype and into the reality.
Yeah, and that's important for a lot of people. Well, it's just cutting through the noise, right? So it helps get straight to the point of what people want. And you've also got prominent interviewees on the show, like Ilya Bookstein has been on in the past, and a few others that I've seen that have just been like some really high profile people that are great to hear from at the same time. So empowering.cloud. If you're not yet subscribed or signed up there, you're going to want to be. That is one of the best ways in the community to stay plugged in and in the know. This show is not as the former pace that we discussed would highlight, but it is a good way to sit down and have some fun from time to time. Before we get deep into our topic, and we're going to kind of be talking skilling and career path and things along those lines, because it's a very odd time in history for those things and this industry and beyond this industry. Before we get to that, let's get right to what is inevitably my favorite segment of the show, and that's the show and tell. You showed me ahead of time a little bit of what you brought. Why don't you go ahead and just crank that out and tell the story behind what you brought?
Here we go. Here's what I've got. It is a IP phone. Cisco's.
Is that a real? Oh,
I cheated.
It's minutes.
I did go through my garage and tried to find a original Cisco IP phone series, and I failed to find an old one. That is the 7900 series phones, which are the first phones I was really configuring.
Wow.
I worked at a Cisco partner doing initially like networking stuff, bit of Wi-Fi, but it was just when IPT was getting more mainstream. So that was what led me to kind of in a roundabout way where I am today, which is starting off in networking, then into IP telephony, then into UC in the way early days when we were impressing people with being able to instant message each other in the workplace or like make a video call from home and to somebody in the office, which was like revolutionary. It's almost hard to imagine how that was so impactful back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I started doing Cisco IPT.
That is awesome. I love that you've got that card hanging around but couldn't find the phone, right?
Oh no, I made this specially for you, Josh. That was a
did you?
full
Okay.
DIY job.
Well, thank you then. That's amazing. I have the same problem. If I were to open up the closet over there and try to find a specific old device from back in the day that I wanted to show off, I would probably get lost and be like walking into Narnia, and I would not be able to get back out of the closet. I try to stay away. It's scary in there. There's
You've
lot
had
of
a couple of moves as well, so you must have moved some gear.
there's quite a bit of gear in there. So I've had to try to pawn some off over time and say, hey, you need this bar, you need this, and see if people need things. But yeah, it's a real thing. I need to look into the recycling side of hardware because I just don't know what that entails, but I know there's a proper path for it. And
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point pretty soon where I'm going to have to get a second room, and that's just a problem.
Oh, that's what we have here in Power and Cloud. I'm very fortunate. We have an office on a farm, and we've got 2 rooms, and one of them is just full of different bars,
Yes.
MTRO, MTROW, and that's how I can keep on top of what's going on. It's crazy. I should do it behind the scenes at some point, but it helps to have multiple things running, some on tap, some not, so you've got a vague idea of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to stay hands-on. That's for me. That's a biggest part of how I learn is staying hands-on. So I appreciate you bringing that on, humoring me and sharing that. I'll on my side, I'm going to share this. I think this is exciting for me because turn it the right way here. I've never had a gimbal at all, and I was talking to my wife about doing some content. I started doing for those that have ever taken a peek on my my YouTube channel. I've done some gardening videos in the past and put them on there. Well, I eventually decided I should make a separate channel for it, one that is still kind of connected to the expert of things and stuff brand, but separate. So I started doing a separate thing, and I was talking to her one day about how one day I want to up level and finally get a gimbal so that I can not have the shaky shots and have to. And so she went out on her own, not a techie person, researched what to get and landed on DJI and got that for me for Father's Day. And I was pretty bored. I was pretty blown away. So I've had it since then, which has been a while. It's still in the box because I want to do an unboxing and time just slips for me. So anyway, I'm excited to do that. Every time I go to a tech show, I've got everyone around me. It seems like everyone and their brother is walking around with a gimbal of some sorts, and I'm just like, I am so far behind on this part of.
Do you know what's nuts is like how I've had this conversation. We've got a WhatsApp group with a few creators going, and like how good the prosumer things are on phone and gimbal now. Like I've gone through phases of using high-end Sony cameras. We do a lot of videos from shows, but actually. For things like that DJI gimbal, the little mics you can get from Rode or DJI or Shure, you can get such good quality out of them and get it going just on a phone. We're in an amazing time from a content creation point of view.
It is. It's too easy, right? If you have just a few of the key tools out there, it's just like, yeah. So this is a step in that direction for me. I'm excited about it. We'll have to give it a shot soon here, get a video out on it, but show and tell. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. In going back to your roots in it, I didn't start with devices. I started just on OCS back, when I was a generalist and everything. I was the Exchange guy, the SharePoint guy, and all that. And they're like, hey, there's this new thing called OCS where Microsoft's kind of tying stuff together. Can you maybe learn that and try to? It was a smaller shop and everything, so I did that. That was where I got started in this space, and it's been a long road since then. But like you, it kind of. The idea of the power of bringing it all together, of transforming the way we communicate in this suite of tools was what got me hooked, right? I kind of stopped at that point being a generalist and said, I'm focusing in this area. This is really cool to me. So
And that's what's interesting, I think, for this conversation is both you and I had a similar route in that respect. Like there was something to really get your technical teeth into. It
yeah,
was boxes and gateways and servers, and we had to talk to the virtualization team, the networking team, the firewall team, the phone team. Like there was tons of tech to get into the UC space. And it's very different now. Like I talk to people who are coming into tech now, grads and things, and it's
yeah.
like, it's really interesting to see not many people are coming through to our UC space, and knowing about SBCs and gateways and all that kind of stuff. And it's got kind of sassified. And I'm interested in your point of view. You've got very deep on devices over the years with your various roles. Like it feels like a similar thing is happening in AV. Like actually it's simplification, it's bars, it's boards, it's all in ones. Like that is getting simplified in the same way the tech world is.
I mean, it absolutely is. You have behind a lot of that too is the desire to cut costs, right? I mean, it all starts from a place of being complex, big, expensive. You need to, and there's a desire over time to, we're buckling down, we're cutting costs, we're this. So how do we now take these big, expensive solutions and start to space by space, room by room, make them more affordable, easier approach? So a lot of that involves SaaS, moving different things to the cloud that formerly were not. We see it across the manufacturing industry when it comes to bars and stuff. Everyone has a bar now, multiple bars for a lot of companies. It's just it's a space where it's getting cheaper, more affordable, easier to do, and we see that more and more. So the days of going out and learning a big old massive on-prem server deployment, and you're good and solid for that for at least 3 to 5 years before the next big server comes out.
Yeah, we had to learn the cumulative updates. So like you'd learn the core server, you learn SQL, you learn Fabric, and then you had 3 years, give or take, for the next major rev, and you'd have CUs. And we all used to get excited about what was in the CU, and you controlled it. And now it's just this super fast moving SaaS service where keeping up is the bigger challenge.
It really is. So I'm curious. Then you said you've talked to a lot of people, about this recently, and I it's an interesting time to be talking to people too. I think there's a lot of even people that are veterans in what they do that with the round after round of layoffs, the place that AI takes in that. Because as much as people want to say, oh, AI is not taking jobs, it's just AI that, if the people that know how to use the AI, they're going to take it. No. The reality is AI is taking some jobs, and that's what we see. I don't want to say in slow motion because it's pretty fast motion. That's what we see happening. Companies are posting record profits and they're dwindling their numbers and they're replacing a lot of what people did with automation and AI. And that's just kind of not stopping. That's going to keep going.
I think what's interesting there as well is it's replacing like the tech people's job. So previously you'd have like, if you think about automation in manufacturing, for example, like that obviously took a swathe of jobs out and automated them.
Right.
But actually the very first thing AI is hitting is like content creation, marketing, writing, and coding, which is fascinating that it's coding and probably coding first.
I know.
So the tech industry is disrupting the tech industry.
Yeah, it really is. That's the ironic thing about it all. And it's a pretty widespread thing. It's not specific to our UCAV space, right? It's pretty widespread throughout, like you said, all kinds of areas, coding and all that. And it's got people sitting there scratching their heads thinking, and it's hard because you watch on LinkedIn too. You watch these rounds of layoffs and people kind of bare their heart on LinkedIn. They talk about how this impacts them, how they feel, right? And what they're going through. And that's hard to read, and you want to jump in there and help as much as you can. And there's lots of people reassuring all the time that this is not a personal thing. This is a corporate thing. It's not you. It's not your skill set, etc. But at the same time, as everyone is watching what's going on with AI and how everything is massively shifting, it's got to have people scratching their heads about, well, maybe it's not my skill set as it existed. But what do I do moving forward? How do I get myself out of this rut that is forming in the wake of AI and into something that's more solid, more stable? How do I upskill and start driving my career in that direction?
And solid and stable are interesting words,
right?
aren't they? Because those are words that you associate with, like, I'm picking the next thing for the next 5 years. But I think the reality is you're not picking the next thing for the next 5 years. You're picking the much more immediate thing, like where do I add value? And the new thing in careers now is being aware of where things are going and just continuing to add value in different ways. Like what we would say in tech, like, well, what we were doing, 5 years ago won't be the same as now. But in our generation, you and I, Josh, it was pretty similar for a long run. Like the difference between OCS and Skype Business 2019, I mean, yeah, they were functionally quite different, but there were servers and communications. Whereas now I think you're increasingly, because of SaaS becoming wider and more generalist, and actually it's understanding if you're working for internally in an organization, or you're working for a partner or a vendor, like how are you helping that customer achieve their goals? And it'll be a range of things you're talking about potentially now.
No, you're absolutely right in that. It really is. I kind of almost wonder, when you say well, you're looking for more longer term stability, that 5 year beyond stretch, and it's more shorter term. You almost kind of have to look at it like, um, almost like we're agents, right? In this agentic AI world that we're living in, almost like you're able to provide different bits of services, because if you need to be able to pivot a lot faster than you used to be able to pivot. Pivoting from an OCS, Skype for Business, whatever, I've just spent all this time absorbing all this knowledge, getting all these certifications to be an engineer, an architect in this space. It's going to take a long time to now pivot into the next career. You've got to be able to make shorter term, faster pivots.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah. And this is the if you're in tech, this is the kind of positive thing about tech as an industry. It moves so fast that if you're willing to keep on top of that stuff, or a subset of that stuff, you're continuing to be valuable. Like I see lots of consulting, that was in very specialized spaces. Now it's like more of an M365 generalist consultant. I might be doing some Purview, I might be doing some team, some SharePoint, whatever. But the whole space is moving so fast. There is value in people who can help decode it, help the customer make the most of it, stay compliant, deal with the changes. So there's definitely jobs to be done there, but they are not, I am the exchange guy or girl, that's my job. Like there's not enough there for the business to warrant that in a lot of cases anymore.
No, it's not, and that's a very big way in which it's changing. So I'm curious then, as you have some of these conversations with people and you're talking to them about this, as you mentioned earlier, are there specific bits of advice that they're seeking from you, or that you've given them? That in the spirit of cutting through the noise of, because this is the noise that we find ourselves in right now. Is here is the current state of AI. Here's the current state of the job market. It's a mess and it's scary. So what kind of advice is there to be had if people are like, well, how do I pivot? How do I stay more nimble?
Yeah, I think on the AI specifically, like it's here, not it's coming, it's here. So embracing that reality, like businesses all know they're going to be disrupted, impacted. So I work a lot with the legal vertical. They are hyper aware that they need to be on this bandwagon, understanding it. So actually, if you're somebody who can come in and have some of those conversations, particularly around maybe AI and compliance as a hot space, or security, and compliance are here forever, because there's constant security threats, there's constant compliance issues. But I think just the reality of if you want to be in this tech space, like that level of agility is going to become part of the cost of entry. You're not, if I go back to my Cisco days, like you used to shut yourself in a literal cupboard for 6 months or 8 months to do your CCIE, and then you were like god of networking, or god of, they added voice and Wi-Fi, like you were like pretty much up to date for a few years in a row. Like that's not the reality of tech anymore. And also in terms of building stuff, increasingly it is, you're either working for one of the big players or an ISV building stuff, or you're deploying stuff. Like increasingly it's either side of that fence.
Yeah, I like you just said with the AI, I think that's a really important part to double down. And maybe people are hearing a lot of this lately, but it is the reality, right? Of it's here. It's not going in. It's not reverting. We're not gonna wake up from the AI coma that we find ourselves in. It's a reality now. So I think that's maybe skill number one in the midst of this huge amount of disruption that is happening in the workplace and skilling up. It's not like you need to go out and take a formal course on how to use AI or any of that kind of stuff. It's as easy as, and a good example is I started I was working with my wife on something the other day. She was, wanting to. I had this idea of going in a direction with a book, a children's book, and all that. And I was like, maybe you should pull up Chat GPT and just start asking it for help in these ways. And the original reaction was, well, I don't know how to use that. I don't know what that is. I'm like, that's okay. All you do is you just pull it up. Just pull it up on the chatgpt.com, and like any other browser, type in a prompt. You ask it to talk to it like a person. Start playing with those responses. And when it gives you a response, say, no, that's garbage. I don't like that. I want you to do this, that, and differently. And sure enough, I mean, she's not in the tech space. This was very new to her. Not someone who you'd think about as knowing an AI expert kind of, but she jumped right in, and now she's just plowing away at it, right? And
Yeah,
that's
there's some benefit to that text-based interface, which is like both scary in the sense of you open it and it's just a blank prompt, but also genius in that you can be like, you can literally write, I want to write a book. I don't really know what to do next, ? And it'll come up with something, and you can start, it's conversational. So you can actually have that level of engagement. And now with the voice stuff as well, it's really exciting that you can actually have a voice conversation to start going through some of your thoughts. There's a sounding board. It's a fantastic AI use case.
It is. The voice is huge. I think to me, that's going to be one of the big keys to unlocking real adoption on a mass scale. I think there's a lot of caution that the world needs to take collectively, but that's probably a different topic. But in the terms of jumping headfirst into it, because it's meant to be conversational, I think actually turning it into a voice conversation is what's going to unlock that for so many people. That's where that aha moment is going to happen. I say something to you, you talk back to me. I'm like, no, stop. Here's what I wanted. Here's where I was going. Oh, I got you. Okay. Now, what I do think they need to stop doing on all the different programs is stop making them be over complimentary back in their responses. Don't flatter me, AI. Just give me my
Yeah, and for some of the more like from more advanced, you can set personal prompts on a lot of the tools ahead of time to say do this, do that. So I always set things like give me short responses, and you say don't like be objective, don't be complimentary.
Yes. That's a pro tip right there. I like that. I'm gonna have to go and do it myself because I'm always like, okay, skip the first paragraph where
it
you're
really helps. I like the
me.
brevity of an answer. Like I'm quite transactional with like I just want the answer. I don't need the hello, how was your day and how's it going? Like it's a tool for me.
So that's kind of I think tip number one there, right? That helps kind of cut through some of this is if you've avoided AI, if you've been soft with approaching it, I'm not saying you need to be an AI expert. I don't think either of us are saying that, or that's the area. But it is something you just need to start getting comfortable with.
Yeah, you couldn't imagine going to a knowledge worker role now and saying like, I don't know how to use Office or a laptop or a phone. Like, right, obviously, and it will become one of those. Obviously, like I can Google things, I can use AI. Like, and it's that same thing with adoption. Like, can you imagine going to people now and saying like they can't have a laptop in their role, or they can't use Google for their work? Like it'd be like tying your hands behind your back, and it would be the same thing with AI. As you say, different podcast conversation about is it good for us cognitively? Is it good for the world? But if this podcast is you in the workplace, that's the reality right now.
It is, yeah, 100%. And it's the barrier to entry is just so low with it too. It's just that doesn't. It's as low as I would say Google, except that it's lower because you have this intelligent back and forth with it. So it's if you've been scared, if you've been hesitant, just pull it up and start talking to it, and that's it. Whether it's Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever your favorite.
Yeah, most of these things have free tiers as well, like Copilot, ChatGPT. Like you can just get started for literal free and have a play with it.
Exactly. I think that would be stop number one. The other thing I'm curious in your thoughts on this stance here. When I take a look at the soft skilling, the ability to pivot faster and move faster, and going back to what I said about us kind of being agents in this space, I feel like in order to stay that nimble and to be able to do it, you've got to stop looking at the world. And I think a lot of companies are realizing this too now. You got to stop looking at the workforce as a 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job place, and then you go and do personal life, and then work only lives here. And I'm not saying you should blend them all too much, but the ability to stay agile and nimble and to pivot when you need to pivot during the day, even with your own time into certain ways, learning the tools that enable you to do that, being able to pivot to different services that you're going to offer as a person, as a human being. I think that's the other key to it. I think some of the younger generations are more tuned into that and are better at doing that. But I think that as you move forward, if you continue to view the job as just being the job during this time and personal life during this time, and you kind of shut off, I don't feel like that's where the technology is going. I don't think it enables that lifestyle as well anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that whole like 9 to 5 thing is from manufacturing, right? It was like we work out the optimum amount of time to have people stamping out widgets, and if we give them 40 hours, slightly different countries, but like 40 hours and this types of shifts, and we give them 2 days to recover, and then we bring them back in, and then they're stamping out the widgets again. It's not the case that a lot of us are doing that hard work anymore. We're doing cognitive work. So actually, it's probably suboptimal, and it's pretty well documented that like you can't be on it cognitively for that period of time. So therefore, taking breaks, working at your own pace is interesting. For a lot of people, practically, like you're going to get more talent if you're flexible around that. Like there's families, there's reality, there's other commitments. I think the big thing there is being outcome driven. Like if
Yes.
I'm employing you or you're working for this organization, if you can get the job done that I want done, does it matter if you did 8 to 7 or 5 to 4 or 3 to and some jobs it's easier than others to read the outcome. So sales is the classic one, right? Like the sale either happened or it didn't. And you'll find in a lot of organizations, salespeople have tons of freedom because we're measuring whether it's happening or not by numbers. And I think there's some of that coming through to the rest of us is like, actually, if I can use Copilot and get my job done in half the time, if I'm getting the job you said I want done, then that's my job. Now, can I then take on more? Can I add more value to you? Can I be more valuable to you? But yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely something in it around, particularly with the way we work now, that not for everybody, different organizations, different verticals, but for a lot of people, there's a give get there.
It is. It's a subjective concept, but it's a kind of why I say that. Why I think you go in that direction. To your point, right? Is it needs to be uh, driven by what you're delivering, what you're accomplishing, etc. So if I at 2 o'clock decide I'm going to go and clear my brain and get a coffee and a biscuit down at the local cafe, and I'm going to just hang out for a bit, and then 7 o'clock, I'm like, you know what? I'm suddenly having that epiphany, that brain exercise. I'm jumping in and doing that thing, and boom, the objective got accomplished later in the day, not in the middle of the day, but the objective got accomplished. You gave yourself a better mental well-being. And then by utilizing not just the hardware, but the software tools that we're talking about that are AI based, that are voice driven, that you can interact with all day long, not just when you're sitting at your desk at 9 to 5, that's when you're going to be able to unlock random on the fly note taking during times when you're just out and about doing something, stuff that drives your productivity and helps unlock new skill sets for you, or empowers you to do thinking sessions in times when you wouldn't normally do them for work purposes. So I think that's that being able to do that pivot. That doesn't mean becoming a workaholic, but it does mean getting
No,
more
it's balance, isn't it? But it's the give get of in the day
Yes.
stuff as well. Like I'm fortunate now, co-founded my own organization, so I have that flexibility. But
Yeah.
everybody in our organization, we approach that. We have lots of people. We have a couple of mums who do school runs and stuff, and it's like that's totally cool. And there's a give get there actually, because sometimes they'll
There
jump
is.
on early or late, and that's the give get. And I think it's interesting, like the younger generation coming into the workplace as well. There's definitely conversations being had about remembering the give of the give get. Like it's all well and good to like have the flexibility, but if you want to get ahead, some of it is making sure you're delivering as well, and then you'll get more flexibility if you deliver more.
Yeah, it is. It's honestly, it's being treated like an adult, right? Is what it is. So,
Yeah.
um, so the other part of the agentic comment that I made earlier, as far as us being agents, and I'm curious to see if you've made this recommendation to people you talk to or what your thoughts are on it, but is the idea that more and more people are starting to think in terms of side hustles and not putting all of your eggs in one basket, right? When we think about, again, going back to the rounds of layoffs, going back to how do I upskill and how do I protect myself long into the future? If it's not finding that solid, stable 5 to 10 year job, but it's more of thinking nearer term, upskilling for the nearer term, then maybe that means diversifying the ways in which you are making money, making an income, bringing things in. Maybe it means not just a side hustle, but a couple different things going in a couple different directions. Um, that's where the analogy to agentic came to my mind, is that hell, and I'm like an agent in this one area where I'm creating content, and you're making passive income in some kind of way doing that. But then I've got the regular day job, but then I've got this other thing that I do that brings in a little bit as well. So if the day job falls apart, you're pulling from these other different areas in little bits. I almost kind of wonder if over time the concept of the in the US W2 or anywhere else the full-time day job, I almost kind of wonder if that fades into the background more and more, and people are just collectively providing their own incomes from various different initiatives that they're involved in, rather than the all that focus going into the one big time-consuming job.
Yeah, I mean, this has
What are
been
your thoughts?
posited before, hasn't it? So things like Fiverr type scenarios of like you're a resource for hire and you're doing 1 day a week of social media for this team or whatever it may be. So there's definitely something to that. For an organization, I think there's huge value in having stability and culture of having a group of people
Yes.
committed to the outcome. So you think of it from both sides of the fence. But I think that on the you're onto something on the side hustle slash gigs thing. And I would say it's not so much that maybe they're massive revenue opportunities, but you're expanding your skill set and your conversation. And for me, obviously community is very central to my heart, has been for too long now, like since the early Microsoft days. But the thing about community is there's a lot of giving of your time for free, but actually you're building network, you're building skills. Like all the things I've done over the years of blogging, the newsletter, the videos from shows, the network I built because of all that is kind of helps me do what I'm doing today. And it doesn't have to be as extreme as that, but just thinking about how you do some extra things around your work, be it a user group in your vertical, be it a conversation, a podcast. YouTube is great. Blogging is great. Like everybody's down on blogging, but it's the best way to pull your thoughts together. Yes, you might not be getting 1 million views a year, but actually you're building a body of work and thought that
Yeah.
if you need to change role or whatever it is. So I would think about it not just from the additional revenue point of view or additional income point of view, but from the skilling and networking is huge.
It is. That's it all comes into play there, right? So I think I like hearing your thoughts on it, because I ponder these things. Part of where the pondering of that particular topic and that maybe more extreme view of it is kind of reading headlines that you get here and there from big names in the industry, like the Bill Gates and those out there that do these interviews, and they get on and say, in the not too distant future, AI will probably have removed all but these three jobs. And that just anyone that reads that goes into a panic of, oh my gosh, what does that
Yeah.
even mean? What does work even look like? Do we
It's
all
just
work
it's
anymore?
just never happened in technology. And this may be different, but like usually humans are pretty good at finding other things to do. So we just move the ball like to do all these other things. So yes, there will be disruption, and actually there might be years of like
Right.
extreme disruption. But we brought in the internet and computers and cars and trucks and transport and railway and like all these things. Most people 100 years ago were all farming. Like that was the big job. Everybody farmed, and then we automated that, and now there's a million people doing accounting, and maybe actually that gets disrupted by AI, and there's a million people doing something else. But in all human history, we've by and large found something else to do that is capitalist driven. So who knows what that is, what that looks like. We're in this transition period, but there's always something to do.
Yeah. No, there is always, and there's always going to be. I think that we've got a couple good nuggets that I think are good for people to chew on at this stage. That I think it's a good place to kind of bring the conversation to a bit of a wrap for now. But when it comes to the AI, that is the big glaring thing in the midst of all this disruption, in the midst of the whole upskilling conversation. What am I in the midst of this, and how do I stay relevant in the midst of this? And the quick and dirty and real answer there is just start using it. You don't have to know anything about it. Just talk to it and take advantage of the audio piece as soon as you can to start talking to it in that way. Get conversational, ask it what it thinks you should do to upskill in the current temperature of things, and see what results you get back. Maybe go in that direction. And then diversify a bit, to let yourself be a bit more diversified in the things that you put time into and the effort that you put time into. To your point, Tom, the community is a great place to start because not only are you getting to know people and getting involved, but you are building new skills. And maybe some of that evolves into other different passive ways that you're providing for yourself in between periods where if you're caught up in one of these layoffs that are happening, et cetera. So diversifying yourself is the other big piece of that. Being involved in the community is a piece of that. Any last words of wisdom before we wrap this shindig up?
No, I think those are really good points. Say just get into the mix and whatever you're interested in, and hopefully add some value to people. That's a big thing. But thanks for having me on the pod. I'm really enjoying this format to have a conversation that's not all just straight tech, but is a bit more people based. It's good conversation.
No, I'm glad you're willing to come on. I'm having fun doing it because to me it just feels like I can get on and shoot the breeze like we would if we hadn't clicked record. Right? We're just hanging out and having a chat.
And we may or may not be live on LinkedIn. We haven't still worked that out.
I know. I keep peeking over, and it doesn't look like we're live on LinkedIn. So I'm feeling somewhat semi-confident. Riverside, please fix your UI.
Yeah. Live for recording is not a great UI.
No, but thank you all for tuning in. Hope this was an insightful and helpful topic for you. Drop some comments on what you'd like to hear us talk about in the future. And we will see you, whether it's next week or next month or whenever. We'll see you on the next Cutting Through the Noise.